Welcome back to Method Cooking with David. Tonight we're making stuffed peppers. You can call them jalapeno poppers, pepper boats, however you want to phrase it or name it. Works because you're the one making it. So this time of the year in the season, a lot is coming out of the garden, peppers especially. If you're tired of making salsas or canning them or pickling them, here's another idea of something you can do at home. Use up a kind of variety of ingredients you got lying around and make something delicious. So we're going to make some to eat, make some to freeze to eat later. So for the stuffed peppers, we've got a sweet Hungarian pepper. Not very spicy, it's got a little bit of a bite, kind of like a sweetness to it. Banana peppers, which have more of like a tang, and jalapeños, which kind of are the go-to for stuffed hot peppers, especially for like an appetizer. We've got the cream cheese that already softened up. You can check that out in a previous video. Some leftover shredded cheddar cheese, some turkey sausages, a little bit of granulated garlic, always salt and pepper, and a little bit of chili flakes. If the heat in the peppers is already kind of where you want it, you can leave the chili flakes out, but I would almost suggest adding just a few, just for more of a depth of flavor, not so much for the heat it'll bring. As we start to prep the peppers, we're going to kind of do an order of operations. We're going to start with the sweetest and work our way up to the hottest, because if we were to cut the jalapenos first, some of that jalapeno juice is going to remain on the cutting board unless we wash it between each pepper, and that heat's going to carry over. So that person thinking they're going to get a sweet Hungarian pepper is going to have a little bit more zip than they were expecting. To prep them, unlike the first video where I was talking about cutting in rings and cutting off to the side to avoid the seeds, we're going to split this one right down the middle. So we're going to see all those seed pods and the membrane. Between a small paring knife and a spoon, we're going to work those seeds out of there so that we'll have as much space as possible for our filling. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. If you leave in a few seeds, it's probably not going to kill anybody. But as far as texture goes and kind of uniformity across the board with the flavors that you're putting together, I'd suggest getting out as many as possible. Then we're going to set those off to the side before we're ready to stuff them. Next up, the sweet banana pepper. We're going to go through this pretty quick because it's pretty much the same as the first one. Split it in half. We're going to see the seeds. We're a small paring knife. Get out that kind of seed pod and a pile of membranes at the bottom. Set it off to the side. And then we're going to set those on the board next to the Hungarian sweet peppers. So it'd almost like to be a progression of heat if someone wanted to try all three. Last but not least, the jalapeno pepper. Scoville rates these at about 5,000 units. So when you're handling them, be really careful not to touch your eyes, any cuts, or your face. And if you have sensitive skin, I'd recommend wearing gloves. Just like with the other peppers, we're going to make sure to get out as much of the seeds and that membrane as possible. And then we're going to put these in a stack by themselves, kind of away from the other peppers, just because, again, some people are really sensitive to them. And next step is to make our stuffing. With the hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways to prepare peppers, eventually you're going to want to break. So what I recommend is splitting them like this, pulling out most of the seeds and the membranes, spreading them out on a cookie sheet or even like a plate, dropping it in the freezer for a couple hours till they harden up and they're all individually frozen, and then from there bagging them up. That way, once they sit in your freezer for a while, when you pull them out, you can open the bag and pull out 1 or 2 pieces of pepper, whatever you need, rather than freezing them all whole like this and ending up with one giant frozen ball of pepper. We're going to get started on the stuffing. So we're going to use the cream cheese that's nice and soft using the previously mentioned quick thawing method. We've got a bowl and a whisk. What I like to do with the cream cheese, especially if you're trying to squeeze it all out, is just cut a hole in the side, almost like a piping bag. That way you can squeeze the cream cheese and it comes right out, and you give it that old toothpaste twist at the bottom, and you're going to get all of it out, or at least as much as possible. With the softened cream cheese in the bowl, we're going to use a whisk. Beat it up just a little bit. It's going to incorporate some air and then make it easier to mix once you add the other ingredients. Now that the cream cheese is a little whipped, we're going to move on to the turkey sausage. Obviously, if you've got hamburger, a regular sausage, like whatever works, this is just what I had left over sitting in the freezer. So we thawed that out. We're just going to cut that into kind of long strips. Once it's in long strips, or a julienne if you will, you're turn to the side. Again, fingers curled up, and just cut like a little dice. That way it's going to mix up nice with the cream cheese and easily get stuffed inside of the peppers. Now I get sausage added to the whipped cream cheese. So we've got the sausage added to the whipped cream cheese. We've got some shredded cheddar, all the spices aforementioned. So we're going to start adding things, and again, this is totally to taste. If you want to add a different kind of cheese, different spices, onion, a spicier pepper, hot sauce, just like It is literally whatever you want to do. So we're going to start with just a nice heavy pinch of cheese. Come behind it, a little bit of salt, a couple cracks of pepper. I'm not trying to make it overly spicy, so we're just going to do a little bit of red pepper flakes, and a little bit of granulated garlic. Now that I've got everything added in, I'm going to hold it like a baby bump of flavor and mix it up just so everything's incorporated, so everything is nice and evenly spread out. So when we stuff the peppers, no one pepper has a ton more sausage or cheese than any other. And as always, the last thing you want to do is serve something that's not delicious. So once we got the mix all put together and everything's fully cooked, so we don't have to worry about eating something raw, give that a taste. You kind of think about, is it good if it's not good, and if it's not good, what's it missing? I think this needs a little bit more black pepper, another shake of chili flakes, and then we should be good to go. Time to stuff those peppers. I've got the oven preset to 375, so while that's heating up, I've got the filling and all the peppers over here on a lightly greased sheet tray. I like to wear gloves for this part because the method I use to stuff them can get a little messy. So I'll grab one pepper at a time. So holding pepper kind of cupped in the one hand, we're going to get a 2 or 3 finger scoop of the filling and then just kind of work it into the pepper. If it's popping out the top a little bit, that's fine because it is going to melt down a little bit, and it's going to be more flavor in each pepper. We are going to continue filling, going from the sweetest pepper down to the hottest till they're all ready, and then we'll pop them in the oven. Now that everything's stuffed in on the tray, the oven is preheated to 375. We're going to toss them in for maybe 7 to 10 minutes or until the top is kind of bubbly and melted. Pop them out, let them cool down, and enjoy. Now that they're bubbling, nice and hot, we're going to get them pulled out of the oven. Get them sitting there so they can rest for a little bit, because right now it'd be like putting actual fire in your mouth. You can see some of them tilted and the cheese spilt over. Not a problem at all. Either scoop it off with a cracker and eat it, or get a small spoon or spatula, scrape it up, put it back in the pepper before you serve it. So we got the peppers out of the oven, let them rest for a little bit just so that cheese, though bubbly hot when we pulled it out, isn't going to burn the roofs of people's mouths. We got everything set up on a platter right now, which would be really cool for like a dinner party, a tasting, I guess, if you were doing something with like foodie friends, with the 3 different types of peppers in the same filling to kind of look at and taste the actual kind of flavor difference between the 3. But don't feel bad if you're doing like a tailgate or having something going on, just to put them on a platter or tray and serve them up. So again, this is David with Method Cooking. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked everything, be sure to share, and as always, subscribe and tell your friends. Pepper poppers. Eventually you're going to get tired of chopping them and putting them on salads, making salsas.